the way that we see stories unfold. It's something that I'm a very visual person, so for me, when I think about stories unfolding, I see what I was taught when I was a kid, and that's the timeline, right? Right. We see timelines because that's what we were taught at a very young age. This is how we tell a story. So if we have these timelines, and they start on your left, and they end on your right, and you're in the present space on your right, you have all of this in the middle, right? So for the sake of being a common story, the timeline that I'm going to show you is associated with Unity of Wichita. And that's simply because it is common. But I invite you to put your own story in a timeline as we talk. Helps if I turn it on. Okay, so this is our timeline that we're going to work with, right? Now I want you to stay in the present with me. Stay right here. So if we're looking at time on a timeline, we've built up all of these experiences, all of these moments. And in those moments, each time we've learned something, right? Do you guys hear the ringing? Okay, maybe turn me down just a hair. As we have all of these stories come up, we learn something, we gain something, we get some spiritual maturity, maybe some emotional maturity, maybe we've even gained some skills to support us professionally, right? So how many of you, while I've been talking about the present, stayed right here in the present? Okay, I'm impressed. How many of you saw names up here and you thought, oh, it was nice seeing Marlon a couple weeks ago? How many of you maybe thought, boy, I wonder, I saw Tim on Facebook the other day. Marin sure does look pretty. How many of you thought, yeah, Debree's been gone for a couple weeks? So even though you're here in the present, you're not. You're stepping back, right? So when I was a kid, let's step back for just a second. When I was a kid, we went to Fowler, Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere, western Kansas, in between Dodge City and Meade. I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it took me 10 minutes to walk across the town when I was 10, so it was pretty small. But we went to the local restaurant every day. And the waitresses were young women, and they were so fun, and I just wanted to be one of them so bad. But I couldn't be one of those waitresses yet. They never did hire me. It's okay. But what I would do, I had the pleasure of taking my grandma's check to the cash register every single day, because we went every day, at least once. And they had this ticket spike. Do you guys remember those? Have you seen them? So you'd go up, you would pay your ticket, they would put the money in the cash register, and then they would take that ticket, click it on that spike. And there would be, by the end of the day, a mess of tickets stacked on top of one another. That meant that that order was complete. That meant that everything had been taken care of and they were moving forward, right? So what if we look at stories in the same way? What if we take this same timeline and we do this? So now I see the present right in front of me. All the same information is there. I promise. I put it there. It doesn't mean that we can't go back. It doesn't mean that we don't access those memories. It doesn't mean that we continue to process or that we don't continue to heal from past experiences, from past parts of our stories. But what it means is that all of those strengths, all of that maturity, all of those gifts that we've gained through those stories are still here. So I can pull out that ticket I'm gonna talk about, now let's pick on Tim. I'm gonna pull out this ticket. And I'm still hurting, you know? I miss that guy. But now I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it right here. I haven't left the present. I'm still here. I've brought it to me. So now I have these tools. I have these mature ideas that I've gained from that time. And when I'm done, when I've finished healing, when I've finished processing, when I've finished dealing with whatever was within me that kept coming up, I can put it right there on top. But here's the cool thing, is that the top one never really changes because we're always right here in the present. So rather than looking at time this way, what happens if we look at it this way, right? So what does this have to do with unity? One of my favorite stories is from Isaiah, and it's this time in Isaiah where the Jewish people have been in exile, and there were two different authors I learned in Isaiah. And the first one is connecting in a criticizing manner, the first half of Isaiah. And then the second half is energizing. It's encouraging the people that were born in exile to start seeing a brighter future, right? So forget the former things, and this is God speaking through Isaiah. Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Isn't that beautiful? Wow. When we start looking at that story from a metaphysical point of view, we have this group of people who are in exile. It's painful. We're separated. And this is that idea of being separated from God, being separated from our truth, right? So we're being separated here, but God is saying, but wait a minute, I'm doing something. I'm doing something within you. I'm doing something that's bubbling up. When we were teaching the Playing Big class, that idea of something coming up within you, that you feel it, but it's kind of scary. It's called Yirah, right? It's this fear that's bubbling up within you that's exciting. And that's what I feel when I read those words. See, I'm doing a new thing. And it springs up. Do you not feel it? So when we look at our stories and we return to those memories or those stories that we're healing from and we've got them in our hands, that's when we're doing that healing work of things that have happened in the past in our lives. Perhaps you ran into an old boyfriend or an old girlfriend, and that brings up something within you. Rather than putting yourself back in that space, you're able to hold that experience with you right now and feel that bubbling up, feel that something new springing up within you of that divine spark, nourishing that separation into a place of coming together, creating streams in the wasteland, creating life within you. So I promised tools. So the first one is that shifting of thinking about your time from linear to being built upon itself. The second tool, I forgot I'm doing this. The second tool is whenever I find myself in that place of being separated, of replaying stories in my head and getting caught up in it and getting caught up in the drama and the anger or the sadness. Once I catch myself there, I have this little chant that I say that Virginia so beautifully put to music. Right? And that is, God is, I am, I think, I create, I pray, and I do. And I do. We have so many doers in this community. Man, and I can't wait to see how many more people step up because we have such a vibrant community. So what this is referencing is the 5 unity principles. And the first one is, and these are from a bookmark that we distribute here at Unity of Wichita. I don't know if I have enough to distribute them today, but I can order some and have them for you next week if you're interested. But it's a very scaled down, simple version. God is all good and active in everything and everywhere. So even as in our stories, as Alan so beautifully put, God is in every situation. I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone. So even in these stories, even when I didn't behave so well, even when I said something unkind, maybe even I lost control of my body, and maybe I hurt someone. Even in that moment, I have the ability to bring that to my present space and begin healing it because that divine spark is within me, working with me, bringing something new. I create my experiences by what I choose to think and what I feel and believe. Many of you know that my husband is in school, and he's not here because he's in the nursery because we team around here. And he had a really big exam coming up, and I've never seen him so nervous. And he was studying and studying and studying and really kind of stressing. I know you can't imagine that because he's so chill. But I finally looked at him and I said, Brian, this is yours to do. This is yours to do. You're going to be fine. And the day of the exam comes up and he says, hey, how's it going? Because he calls every day. And I said, it's going well. How are you? You know, you're right. And I could see him. This is mine to do, and I'm going to pass it on the first try, and I'm going to be done, and it's going to be great. I said, "That a boy." So I come home, and I see him just sitting as he does, relaxed. Meh. And I said, "How did it go?" I passed. Good for him. He's going to listen to this later, and he's going to know the word's out. And I said, "But did you pass on the first try?" "Well, yes." And he had gone from this worrying mess to this confident, poised, ready to express his thing to do, simply by changing the way he was thinking. I pray, I meditate to connect with God and bring out the good in my life. We think it, we pray, we focus on it, and finally, I do my best by living the truth I know. When we are present, and it's not always easy, I'm not present all the time, but I do try to return to this. And these two tools are my biggest supports. And that is, again, moving from seeing my life this way to just stacking opportunities, stacking incidents, stacking conversations and feelings about myself or others, bringing them to the present moment now so that I can process them in the most healthful way that I am able at this point in time, so I can put them on top of the pile and put them into completion. So I act. Each one of these things is an action. And each person here brings forward an action, and like I said, we have a lot of doers. Art was a pinpoint of transition last week, and he knocked our socks off. And we have so many more people in this community coming forward. And I wanted to mention that part of that doing, so many of these things are not seen. We're not aware of all of them. But the story is continuing every single day. I would like to ask Judith Huffman and Jeannie Shove to just wave your hands, say hello. I'm sure that you noticed this beautiful wall hanging. This beautiful wall hanging is the flower of life. It is an image of what's usually called or referred to as sacred geometry. And it's expressing the wholeness of life. It's expressing the wholeness of action and all that we are and all that we do. And it is being a beacon of light, illuminating the stage for each and every one of us that is able to come up here, grow, expand our awareness, and open our consciousness to a new frequency that allows us to keep the story going. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.